I was first offered a clinical trial when the treatment that I was taking at the time had failed. Obviously I was really excited because there was no other option. However, then you get handed paperwork to read. It can be quite daunting, and so then I did start to feel a little bit anxious. I didn't know really what was the best thing to do at the time.
An early phase trial is a study of a brand new drug that we hope will be one of the cancer treatments of the future. The way we design the trial is to minimise risk, but obviously any study, any drug that's brand new potentially could have risks that haven't been predicted before. And that is a very important part of the consent process when you enter a clinical study. You cannot be given any assurance that you're going to be given a completely safe drug. We also cannot predict benefit. We choose trials that we think are going to in some way work, but there's no guarantee that they will, because they may be the wrong dose, or there may be something about the biology of cancer and this drug that we don't yet understand. The patients have to understand that sometimes they may not benefit from the study at all. And if at any time the scans show that the drug is not working, we would stop the study immediately, at which point the patient could then be reconsidered for another trial, and again, another chance at seeing whether they can find a treatment that might help.
One of the biggest things that I found quite shocking is that early in the paperwork it does state that the trial may not benefit me particularly, but that it could benefit other people in the future. That was one of the hardest things to kind of take on board, was that you were potentially putting yourself through a treatment that could give you side effects and make you feel unwell and not have any beneficial effect. And at the time when you don't feel well, all you can think about is, I want to get better, not how is this going to help other people in the future? I want me to get better today. So that was quite difficult.
The consent process is vital in entering one of these studies, so that the patient and the doctor both feel that they are at the same level of understanding about the clinical trial and its benefits and risks. So in that early stage, we will outline the overall aims of the clinical trial, and then we will send them information or give them information about a specific study, and that's called a patient information sheet.
There's lots of language within the paperwork that you're given that is very clinical. We did lots of research into what some of the side effects would mean, and we made a lot of notes so that I was prepared for when I came into clinic. I had a list of questions that I could ask the team that would be supporting me.
A trial might require you to come up to the hospital once or twice a week, other times more frequently, other times less frequently. So it's important for the patient to think, will I be able to do this from where I'm living? Have I got the transport in place to be able to do this? What kind of commitment am I making to this study? And then we have another meeting, and this time a little bit more detailed, to go through the specific study, to try and explain the biology behind the study, the science behind the study, what the overarching aims of the trial are, and what we perceive to be the risks and benefits to the patient.
On the day, you do sign your consent form to say that you're going to willing to take part if you're accepted, and that's again a big thing, because you're signing away to say that you're happy to take a treatment that might make you sick. It's a hard decision to make, and it does feel very, very clinical.
Once the consent is done and you've signed and you're happy to go ahead with treatment, you will then be screened. So we'll do several tests, and this will be done by the research nurse who is allocated to you. A lot of the tests will be involved in taking bloods, doing ECGs. We may do your height and weight. We'll take a urinalysis sample from you. And you may also have to have other tests done which are done in different departments. It may be that we have to bring you back on different days where we coordinate with other departments to get those appointments made for you.
So we like to have a baseline of your height and weight so that we can measure you on future appointments and know if your weight is fluctuating at all, and also we use that weight to decide on the dose for your drug.
What we have to do really is do a series of tests on you early on to make sure that your body is able to cope with the drug, knowing the side effects that we would expect from the drug from the preclinical studies, and you then repeat those sometimes intermittently during the study just to make sure that there's no damage occurring in those organs while you're on the trial.
The screening process is quite vigorous. lots of stuff that you have to go through. You're probably still trying to make a decision as to whether it's what you want to do or not want to do, and you still don't really know whether you're actually able to take part in the trial. So it's a very anxious time when you're waiting around to find out, you know, whether you fit the criteria. They are quite strict.
It is vital that you fulfil all the screening requirements before you can go on to the study. We are not allowed to put you on unless you do. And so for a patient going into a trial, we have to conduct the tests as defined by the protocol, and the patient has to pass the results of all of those steps before we can put them into the trial.
Many of the studies have strict criteria, and we have to make sure you fulfil that before we put you onto the study, because we want to keep you safe. It can take a couple of weeks to get the results from all of these tests. Once we've got all the results, then the research nurse will give you a call and let you know whether you're eligible for the study.
For many patients, going into an early phase study is because they have run out of options. If we have a study that they would be suitable for, we will try and put them into that trial. But sometimes they are not eligible for a study, either because we don't have the right sort of study slots available at the time, or because their blood tests suggest they're not well enough to go into a trial, or any of their other tests show for any reason they're not suitable. The options for the patient are, at that point, to be considered for a phase 1 trial elsewhere, and if there is a study somewhere else in the UK, we can guide them to where they could receive a trial that may be more suitable, or we'd have to refer them back to their oncologists and say to them, unfortunately, they're not eligible for a trial, and that happens to a percentage of patients who come to us.
It is amazing to think that, you know, you're part of something. Cancer is such a big thing, it affects so many people. To be part of the cure that will eventually happen is an amazing feeling.